Hi, I have a stack of 10 children's books from my local library, and I am going to walk you through all of them, starting with my very favorite one and working my way down. So the first book and my favorite one this week is The Good Egg. I love the story for a few reasons. One, it's just got a very cute character right from the beginning. And it has a very linear, easy to understand story that I think kids are definitely going to enjoy. My girl, who's 6 months old, seemed interested throughout the whole story. And at the same time, I as an adult was also entertained by it. And I found that it spoke to some things that you may have experienced in the world. So basically, you have this really cute egg who identifies as a very good egg. He does different things to help out the neighbors. He's just a great egg, but he has all these other eggs in the carton, and he often finds that they are not so good. They just kind of misbehave. They drive him crazy. He can't control them. And so eventually he decides to leave his egg crate, and he just basically goes off on his own. He has kind of a retreat where he resets himself. And the cute part about this book is that after his retreat, he does decide that he's going to come back to his fellow eggs. But he decides that he's kind of reached peace, I guess, where now he's not going to try and be so controlling. He's going to accept that people are imperfect or bad sometimes and just let that go. I think that's actually a really useful lesson to learn in life. So I just love that some children's book author actually crystallized that into a very entertaining, very cute children's book right here in The Good Egg. Moving on to my second favorite this week. This book is What Will These Hands Make? This book has an amazing concept. The concept is just asking kids to think about what do they want to make in life? What do they want to contribute to their community? What do they want to contribute to the world? And it asks that question in ways that are very user-friendly to kids. So, for example, will these hands make a teacup for a child, a bowl round and shiny, a quilt to warm, a chair for listening? Will these hands make a hat for a baby's head, a wall to walk along, a gate to open, a garden for many, and so on. And the illustrations give you kind of almost Easter eggs where you can kind of hunt and you can find the things that the text is talking about. But it's not, I think because the illustration style, you sort of have to look around to find each of the objects that the text is talking about. I love this book for a couple reasons, but it really gets kids thinking about what do they want to do in the world and how do they want to impact the world, and just in appreciating also the things that other people have created for them. I just thought that was a very sweet message, and I've never seen it in any other kids book. I do want to leave one note for the author in case they ever make a second edition of this book, and I hope they do. I thought that the author used a very interesting technique for the illustrations that you can't quite see from the illustrations themselves, the way that they're printed. It says the images were cut from black paper using an X-Acto blade knife, and she explains, my left hand held down the paper while my right hand cut the lines and shapes. My hands made what I always wanted to make since I was a child, a book for you. So I love that her technique for creating the illustrations kind of reflects the theme of the book, which is actually physically making something. But I just felt that these illustrations, the way that they're printed, you can't really see that original artwork. It just looks very flat. And so I just wish that they would set up her original art with a nice soft light coming in from the side so that you can actually see the texture of the paper or the little mistakes if there's excessive cuts or whatever. But I just wish that it were like I were in a museum looking at the artwork on a wall and I could really see the details of the paper or the glue or whatever that art actually looks like. I think it would be so much more interesting. Next up, my third favorite book, I Love You Because I Love You. This book fits into a genre of kids books, which is basically about how love enriches you and how when you give love to others, you also get something back as a person and it makes your life bigger. I'll just read a few pages so you get the idea. I love you because you're you. And I love you because you're here. Because I love you, I am here. I love you because you carry me. Because I love you, I am strong. And so you can see that theme coming through here about how, like, sure, you might carry someone else, but you're actually making yourself stronger by sharing that love for them. And so all these pages, I think, just deepen and deepen that theme. The illustrations are great. They're very clear, so they're easy for a kid to follow along and understand. My daughter is 6 months old, so she can't necessarily understand illustrations that are way too abstract, but she may probably be able to identify that these are human figures. Maybe they're playing soccer. Like, if illustrations are literal enough, then she can follow it better. So I love that this book is concrete enough for very little kids if you want to read to kids who are that age. So great theme, really well done. Love the illustrations. Next up is Wild for One. And this book does something different. It is explaining, actually, a disorder, sensory processing disorder. And in the back of the book, there's some information on that disorder, so you can learn more about it as an adult. But if you were a kid reading this book, what you'd probably understand is that there's a kindergarten class. There's a little girl who kind of stands out. She sort of misbehaves or acts a little weird. At circle time, she howled like a hyena. At reading time, she kicked like a kangaroo. And at lunch, she chomped like a piranha. So she's acting kind of strange. The teacher has an interesting idea, and she's like, hey, why don't we try experiencing the world like Winnie does? So, you know, when she's acting a certain way, what if we try to understand and imagine how she's feeling, and we try to act that way too? I don't know if that would be a realistic exercise for a kindergarten class, but it works in a storybook. So when she's kind of monkeying around and being real silly, the other kids also try doing that too. They kind of start acting like monkeys on the jungle gym. And then when Winnie's very antsy, the other kids also act kind of antsy. But basically what this is illustrating is, from the kid's standpoint who's listening to the story, I think it's just illustrating empathy for someone who's different and not setting them apart, but including them and bringing them into the group. So I thought that was a great message for kids. But for adults, it's also teaching you about sensory processing disorder so that you may understand your child better if they have it, or other children better if they have that. Really cute book, really well illustrated. Wild for Winnie. Next up, I have Two Together by Brendan Wenzel. I can tell this book is created by a pro children's book writer because the writing is so concise. It is so rhythmic and what would I say? It's just minimal, and it's got a great sense of pattern or poetry to it. So you could probably sing this as a song, or you can just narrate it, but either way it's going to sound great as you read each of these pages and you show these pages to your kid. It's about a dog and a cat, and they're basically going home together. They encounter different things like this frog, or they're going through the scrub or the grass. They're going down paths. They discover a toad, they discover a pear. So it just kind of walks through all the different things that they discover on their path home. And what's interesting is, as they get closer and closer home, their illustration styles merge. The author used this kind of paintbrush style for the dog and the scratchy crayon look for the cat. And then at some point, their illustration styles flip for a page. I think this is the page. So here you have the dog rendered in crayon and the cat rendered in paint. And then in the subsequent pages in the book, they're rendered in this kind of merged style where they, I guess, are more harmonious as a pair. So I think it's a cute story about friendship and about finding your way home or finding your way somewhere together as friends and enjoying the journey. So a really cute book that is two together. Next up, I have Imagine a World by Rob Gonsalves. And this book utilizes some surrealist artwork by the painter. And I guess the concept here in the book was, what if we merge this really interesting artwork with some text that just kind of illuminates the themes, or the themes that you might read into each piece. And so the artwork, I'll just explain, is like, it's something that looks fairly real and normal, but then at a corner of the illustration, it'll start going a little bit imaginative. So here's a forest, it's fall, but in the side of the page, you see the tree leaves turning into butterflies, monarch butterflies. Over here, we see rows and rows of houses, but in the distance, the houses turn into people. I'll just read an example page. Imagine a world where songs in the night awaken sleeping streets, with a melody each home welcomes, with unlocked doors and open hearts. Imagine a world where the challenge of riding on rough and rocky seas is also a chance to climb the highest peak. And here you see the sea back here and the rocks, and then it's like the sea is turning into mountains with the ship on top of the mountain. So very, very abstract, kind of surrealist style of art. But these illustrations are genuinely kind of interesting to look at. And I think that the text that goes along with it doesn't necessarily follow one particular story or anything, but it does kind of illuminate the artwork. Maybe it helps you or your child to appreciate the artwork a little bit more. And anyway, it's a different book, but it's only 5 minutes to read, and it's definitely worth the 5 minutes. I keep putting the books in the wrong spot. A few more books to go. This one is Plátanos Are Love, and it fits into the genre of children's books where grandma teaches a grandkid how to cook. So in this case, we have a grandma who is introducing her grandchild to plátanos and how to cook plátanos. It makes the grandchild appreciate her history, her family history, and she basically also kind of learns the details of cooking, but also I think the heart and spirit that goes into the meal preparation too, which is obviously part of good cooking. So very cute book. I love that these illustrations are concrete enough for a little child to be able to see what's going on in the pictures and learn the language. And by the way, speaking of language, this book has a good amount of Spanish integrated into the text. So I took Spanish in high school. I'm not really good, but it was enough Spanish in here for me to kind of flex my accent a little bit and get me interested actually in reading more books in Spanish, maybe whole books in Spanish. I'm not sure if I could pull that off, but you know, this is just really, really cute, and I thought it was well integrated into the text. If you really don't speak much Spanish, the way that Spanish is integrated into the text is enough so you'll be able to understand what's going on in the story, even though there's actually a lot of Spanish vocabulary here. In the back, they have a glossary of Spanish words, and then there is also 2 or 3 recipes that you can practice making. So a really nice package in this book, Plátanos Are Love. Next, I have Very Good Hats. This book is just very silly. It's all around the theme of hats and what makes a hat. And basically, I suppose anything that you can put on something else is, in a way, a hat. So it starts, do you know what a hat is? I bet you think you know what a hat is. And it shows you a regular haberdashery, but the next page it shows acorns make snug hats for your fingers, raspberries, chewed up gum, tortellini, and doll shoes work too. And so, yeah, it's just a very cute collage style book, having fun with this theme of hats. I'll show you another sample illustration. Fantastic. 2 more books. This one is Home. It is a gorgeous book. I have to really praise the artwork and concept, but I do think it has a drawback for kids, which is that this style of illustration may be very hard to understand for a 6-month-old in my case, or I'd say even a kid who's younger than 3, I'd imagine. But the story is about a father who takes his daughter to work, and the father drives deliveries, and so it just takes you through their journey as they leave home and then they they drive through the city and they make these deliveries. So I thought the illustrations are definitely beautiful and personal and interesting. I was just kind of concerned that maybe a kid might not be able to understand this. But go ahead and read it to your kid and see how they do. With a lot of these books, they're only 5 minutes to read a kid's book. So you don't really have much to lose by picking up something at the library and seeing how your kid reacts to it. One last book. This one is The Forever Sky, and it celebrates Native American culture. In this case, it is about a family who has just lost a grandma in the family, and the kids are talking and saying to each other, or maybe it's an uncle who's speaking to the cousins, and he's telling the cousins that, you know, grandma is up in the sky. She's part of the cosmos. She's dancing. She's still, her spirit is alive and well in you and in the world around us. So I think that that's a kind of a timeless idea, and it's just illustrated very beautifully and very respectfully of the Native American culture that's depicted here. I do have a couple kind of criticisms and maybe ideas for how a book like this could improve upon what it's already doing. One is, if it can possibly make the story a little more linear, I think that makes it better for kids to be able to follow. My daughter, each time I read this, she wasn't as engaged as with some of these other books, and I think it's because it's just a little bit too thematic and not like a concrete story she can follow. The other thing is just like, in this page, the characters are supposed to be dancing, and yet that might be hard for a child to see in the illustrations. Like, this dancing is very subtle. It more or less looks like they're standing around. So I do think when you have illustrations that really are easy for a child to like point to and identify, like they can see that that's dancing, that just makes the book a little more engaging for a young audience. But, you know, despite those things, I still think this is a welcome book to be on the library shelves, introducing this culture and the spirituality to kids. And the illustrations are definitely beautiful, I'll say that. So that is The Forever Sky. So I hope you enjoyed this stack of 10 books. And I also really want to encourage you to check out those top 3. I think they're amazing books. I'm sure you'll enjoy them. I Love You Because I Love You, What Will These Hands Make, and my top pick for this week, The Good Egg. If you'd like to see more library book reviews like this, just subscribe to my channel, and I'll see you in the next video.